1,300 people have been executed in Texas. This is part 9 of the series. David Michael Clark, February 28, 1992. For killing 25-year-old Beverly Benninghoff and her 21-year-old boyfriend Charles Gears on February 18, 1987, Clark was charged with capital murder. Halfway through the presentation of the prosecution's case in chief on the third day of the trial, June 24, 1987, Clark changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. According to testimony, the murders happened amid a dispute about some missing chemicals that are used to produce illegal methamphetamines. On June 26, 1987, he was given the death penalty after being found guilty on June 25. Because he was full of spirit, he declined the last meal and said that he would fast and read the Bible. Prior to his execution, he seemed to be reciting prayers on the gurney, but he had no final statement. Edward Anthony Ellis, March 3, 1992. Ellis was found guilty of killing 74-year-old Bertie Elizabeth Eakins and placing her body in her bathtub on February 27, 1983. Ellis had previously been fired as a maintenance worker at an apartment complex in the Heights area where Eakins was living. His lawyers obtained a letter from an acquaintance who confessed to the crime, and he proclaimed his innocence. However, Ellis was observed by witnesses driving Eakins' stolen vehicle and cashing checks that were fraudulently issued on her account, and his fingerprints were discovered on the victim's door. His last words were, "I just want everyone to note that the prosecutor and Bill Scott are sorry sons of bitches." To his family, he added that he loved them all. Billy Wayne White, April 23, 1992. On August 23, 1976, White shot 65-year-old Martha Laura Spinks as she and her husband were closing their furniture store in Houston. His lawyer's arguments that the man should be spared due to mental health issues were dismissed by state and federal appellate courts. White's history of heavy drug use made it challenging for the executioner to locate a vein to administer the fatal injection. He declined to make a final statement. Justin Lee May, May 7, 1992. In a 1978 attack on their Western Auto store in Freeport, May killed Janetta Murdo, 43, by shooting her twice in the head. He also killed her husband. However, he was never put on trial for shooting the man. May killed 5 people in 2 robberies. It wasn't until May boasted about the robbery killings 6 years later, while incarcerated in the Texas prison for 3 prior murder convictions, that he and his accomplice Richard Allen Miles were charged in the murders. His last words were directed to his family members. "I want to tell them I love them and I appreciate all their support." He was seen coughing and gasping before being pronounced dead. Jesus Romero Jr., May 20, 1992. A 27-year-old man named Jesus Romero Jr. was found guilty of essaying and killing a 15-year-old girl. On December 13, 1984, Olga Perales was brought from a party to La Pedra Lake, where she was stabbed in the chest and stomach and beaten on the head with a pipe. Romero was giggling while he was beating the girl with the pipe, according to testimony given by one of his co-defendants during the trial. A day later, Peralez's body was discovered in a field. In her death, 3 further individuals were found guilty as well. For sexual assault, Rafael Leiva Jr. received a 20-year term. Jose Cardenas received a life sentence, and Davis Lozado received a death sentence. Romero's last words were, "Tell Mom I love her." Robert Vannoy Black Jr., May 22, 1992. He was found guilty of hiring a man to murder Sandra Black, his wife. According to the evidence presented at trial, Black doubled Sandra's life insurance coverage by obtaining a $100,000 policy 8 days prior to the murder. According to the evidence, Black had been thinking about killing Sandra for several years before she was murdered, and he had tried to recruit a number of others to help him carry out his plans. Black's last statement consisted of an aviation poem named High Flight. Curtis Lee Johnson, August 11, 1992. Johnson was found guilty of killing 25-year-old Murray Sweat on September 24, 1983, during a break-in at Sweat's Houston apartment. Sweat surprised Johnson and an accomplice by entering the kitchen and was shot once in the chest. Only $8 and a camera were taken by the robbers, according to the police. 6 days later, during an armed robbery, Johnson and the accomplice were taken into custody. Johnson was on parole for an armed robbery in Harris County in 1977 at the time of his arrest. He had been found guilty of burglary, theft, and armed robbery and given a 45-year prison sentence. Johnson's last words were, "Everyone that is participating is forgiven." He expressed his love and gratitude to his mother and aunt for supporting him, but both women were not present during the execution. James Demouchette, September 22, 1992. Demouchette was found guilty and given the death penalty in Texas for killing 2 Pizza Hut employees in a heist that took place in Houston in 1976. After he fatally stabbed another prisoner with the handmade knife, he became notorious as the meanest man on death row for his abnormal conduct. His case had garnered significant public attention at the time of his execution in 1992, and proponents of the death penalty had also cited it as an example. He refused to make a final statement. Jeffrey Lee Griffin, November 19, 1992. Between 1978 and 1979, Griffin kidnapped and fatally stabbed 3 victims in Houston. When 20-year-old waitress Sylvia Mendoza's partially nude body was discovered in a garbage can on July 23, 1978, an autopsy revealed that she had been stabbed 49 times. Griffin, who claimed to have witnessed someone kidnapping her but allegedly couldn't identify the perpetrator, was one of several people questioned about the crime. He was released since, at the time, there was no solid proof of his guilt. Griffin planned to rob the One Stop Drive-In, a tiny convenience store in his area, on March 13, 1979. He threatened David Sobotik, a 19-year-old employee, and Horacio De Leon, a 7-year-old friend who was visiting him at the time, as he entered. He ordered the two to get into Sobotik's car and drove a few blocks away after rifling through the business and taking $175. As they arrived to a remote spot, Griffin stabbed Sobotik and De Leon, concentrating his thrusts on the region surrounding their hearts. According to his later claims, when he stabbed De Leon, he said sorry each time. His final words were, "You're a good warden. I'll see you. I'm ready." Kevin Wayne Lincecum, December 10, 1992. He received the capital punishment for kidnapping and strangling 35-year-old Katie Coppage on August 11, 1985. Casey, the victim's son, died in the assault as well. He declined to make a final statement. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.